She was thrown into the flames as a sacrifice, wounded, betrayed, forgotten by her own kind. But when she opened her eyes, she wasn't in ash and agony. She was wrapped in warmth, in the arms of a human who had no reason to save her. She didn't understand kindness, didn't believe in mercy, but now she must learn what it means to be cherished, even as the ones who abandoned her returned to finish what they started. The fire roared around her like a second skin, too hot to scream, too loud to hear her own sobs, too bright to see the faces of those who had cast her into it. Her people's silhouettes blurred behind the inferno as they turned their backs and left her to burn for a sin she did not commit, for a war crime someone else orchestrated. She had only spoken the truth, only begged them to spare the innocent. But truth had no place in a crumbling regime, so they called her a traitor, stripped her down, dragged her by her white hair, and tossed her into the ritual pit like garbage. She remembered the moment her body gave in, legs unable to stand, lungs filling with smoke, skin splitting where flame met flesh. She thought that would be the last thing she'd ever feel. Then blackness took her, but blackness wasn't the end. Cold came next, then warmth, not the blistering heat of fire but a soft, trembling warmth like skin against skin, strong arms wrapping gently around her broken frame. A voice, deep, soft, human, was calling her name, a name they had buried with contempt. "Sira," he said, "you're safe now." And she didn't know if it was a dream or death, but she didn't resist. When she opened her eyes, she was in a cave, dimly lit, wrapped in layers of cloth that smelled like forest and sweat and something comforting. She panicked, tried to fight, but her limbs failed her, only a faint whimper escaped her throat. The human sat beside her, his face gaunt and covered in ash, his hands burnt in places where he had carried her through flame, but his eyes were kind, terribly kind. He didn't speak much, just offered her water, cooled her burns with salve, fed her in silence. Days passed, she regained strength, but not trust. She didn't understand him, why he stayed, why he risked so much for her. He never touched her without need, never asked anything in return. One night, while she watched him sleep beside the fire, his coat wrapped around her, she whispered, "Why?" And he stirred but didn't wake. The next day he answered as if he had heard her in his dreams, "Because no one should be left to die for speaking the truth." And she broke inside. Not loudly, not visibly, but a quiet shatter beneath the ribs. No one had believed her, no one had saved her, not until now. She began to talk, to share, fragmented pieces of her past, the brothers she lost, the betrayal, the silence of those she trusted. He listened, always, never judged, never interrupted. Then came the night she cried, not from pain, but from safety. She hadn't cried since she was a girl, but now tears soaked his coat as he held her, said nothing, just let her feel. The burns on her body healed, the scars didn't. But he showed her they didn't make her ugly. He kissed the worst of them, tenderly, like they were sacred proof of survival. When she first kissed him, hesitant, trembling, he didn't pull her closer, he waited. When she leaned into him, he whispered her name like a prayer, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of being touched. They built a shelter, small, hidden among trees. They hunted together, ate together, slept curled against each other when the nights grew cold. Her people had forgotten her, but the galaxy hadn't. One day, a drone flew overhead, then another. They were being hunted, not for him, for her. The regime had fallen, but its remnants still saw her as a threat. They came at dawn, fire again, like ghosts of her past, armed soldiers in armor bearing her world's crest. She stood at the door of the cabin, his rifle in her hand, his voice behind her saying, "You don't have to do this," but she shook her head. "Yes, I do," and walked out. She faced them, scars bare, hair wild, body stronger than it had ever been. She didn't beg, she roared. The fight was brutal, she killed without mercy, but not without grief. When it ended, when the last soldier fell, she collapsed into his arms again, not from weakness, but from release. They left the woods that night, no longer hiding. She didn't fear being seen anymore. She was no longer a girl they tried to burn. She was the woman who survived it, who found a human who showed her how to live again, how to love, and how to rise. Years passed, her people's ruins gave way to new life, her name spoken again, but now with reverence, not hate. And beside her, always, was the human who saved her, not because he had to, but because he chose to.